Episode 3 of our Birdies garden focused tour, I guess I can call it. This is where I'm going through all of the beds here in the raised bed gardens and really talking about each bed specifically. We're going to cover the garden tunnel, and we love this thing. It's really done well. It's our second year having it. Modeled it off of a couple different beds that we saw on YouTube. Obviously, Epic Gardening with the Birdies raised beds, big influence here. But we also watched Self-Sufficient Me and loved Mark's pumpkin tunnel, and Jay had to have it. So with that, we are made a couple of modifications here. We used cattle panels, and there's 4 cattle panels on these for this tunnel. It's about 16 feet long. Each bed is about 2 feet wide. They are 2 of the tall 8-in-1 beds put together along here, and we've added extra supports across each of the bed to really hold the shape better, so that when you look down the line, it doesn't weave as much. We did have to add additional supports to this first bed that we did when we installed the second bed. We had already learned from it. So this side of the bed is now a little bit straighter. But so it's just 2 of these beds put together and used in a long formation to get this shape. So when we were designing the tunnel, we talked about doing pumpkins and all sorts of different things on it. And last year we did beans and cucumbers and pie pumpkins. I tried to do watermelons, didn't have much luck last year with those. And so this year when I was working on it, the end of the season last year, I ended up having extra space and I wanted to do some late tomatoes. And I had done them on the side here as a test, and they did really well. There were some grape tomatoes. And so now what I've done this year is did this whole east side wall that gets sun from about 5:30 a.m. until maybe about 12 o'clock, right around high noon sun, with no blockage at all. So I've designed these to be kind of the fun tomatoes and grapes, cherries, and different colored ones and different shaped ones. So we did a plant swap with a couple of the local homestead ladies, and I was able to pick up some more fun varieties of tomatoes. So some of these are ones that I grew from seed, and some of them are from some of my friends. So this first one is a Valentine. It's a grape tomato, and I use these clips, the lower and lean clips. I just don't actually clip the string into anything, and I just clip them to the cage. So I'm continuously pushing them up against that cage or pulling them back onto the cage. And then I do trim them to make sure that the onions and everything underneath it have enough sun. The beginning of the season, this empty space that you're seeing all along here, this was all peas, and the peas were this height. And I had already planted the tomatoes, so when I planted the seeds and the transplants of the peas, the tomato plants were here, but they were very small. So what it did was the peas shot up, harvested them really well, and when they started dying off, I went in and cut the pea plants. I didn't pull them. I didn't want to disrupt the soil. And so that gives the worms a little bit of food as well. And so it also doesn't disrupt the tomatoes that much. But this variety of grape Valentine, I believe it's from Johnny Seeds, does really well. This is the second year growing it. Been very happy with it, and it grows really fast. This is the same type of grape I have, I think, in 2 other places in the garden. But I really do like the way it looks on the tunnel. The next one we have, make sure I get the tags right, is the Sunrise Bumblebee. And so these ones have some really cool striping. And this is from one of the friends. And so they haven't ripened yet. They're a little bit slower to get moving. But there's a lot of fruit on this plant, and I'm excited to see how those go and how they taste. Then we have another Valentine here. I had a couple extra cuttings, I think. The next one is actually a clementine, and this was a sucker. So this was a cutting, a clone from another one. And so you can see the tomatoes are starting. It's a little bit younger, but I had a pretty large gap, although now it's getting filled in, that I figured I could fill with a little bit of a cutting from one of my other plants. That's a 2-ounce, the 2-ounce orange ones, Jay's favorite of the year so far. These next one are Hillbilly Tom, and I did just pick a ripe one. It's a little bit bigger than these guys. This one's a little bit slower to grow. I didn't actually check, I should have. I might be actually a determinant, which means I shouldn't have pruned it as much, but I still want to prune this because I'm gonna come in and plant a bunch of fall things right back here. This next one is the mushroom basket. And these have some really cool shapes, and I'll go around and show you guys a little bit better view of those. So here we are inside the tunnel. And hopefully you guys can see these all right. These have really fun ribbings and designs. It's always fun to have different textures of tomatoes. And so you can see in the tunnel, you get a little bit of the splash of the color. The next one is a Torahina cherry. And this one does look diseased, so I may actually need to cut this one down. I'll prune it quite a bit and see if that saves it, but we'll have to watch so you can see the leaves here have some browning. But the Torahina is very loaded right now. And let's see, I'm gonna go back around. So here you can see more of the fruit from the Torahina. The next one we have is the black strawberry. And this is another trade from a friend. And these ones are the Baker Creek cover tomatoes. And been hearing mixed reviews on the actual flavor of these, but I don't have any ripe yet, so we won't know for a little bit. I'm thinking these are gonna be close, but they're still kind of rock hard. But the coloring on them is very interesting. And they do add some character to this wall. And the next one, another swap. Actually, I think all but the Torahina and the Valentine are swaps on this wall. This is a Rose de Bern. So no fruit yet ripened, but it's got quite a bit of fruit on here. So we'll see how this one goes. But overall, I'm very happy with the way the tomatoes have stayed up on the cage, on the trellis, and getting good amount of fruit off there every day. We did pick this yesterday, so all those cherries and grapes you're seeing are new for me to pick today, which is great. We also had, I put some alyssum in here and some ageratum just to add some little colors. I did already harvest quite a bit of dill from in between the onions. And then I do have a lot of onions in here. And the goal was to really try to take advantage of the early season really bright sun that this side of the garden gets. Some decent sized ones. I picked a couple of the bigger ones out of here. A lot of them have been really smaller than I'd like. Part of that is the drought we're having, and I don't want to water every single day, although I do tend to water more than I'd like to admit. With these tall raised beds, you do need to. So the plans are, and you'll see some beets in there as well. The plans are to come in here and plant a bunch of stuff on the back side here. And I may also plant some fall peas coming up to get those. They were so good this year. Tempted to try those for the fall. I've never done peas in the fall, so that'll be kind of a fun experiment to see the best timing for that. But I'm getting to the point where I could actually plant carrots for a late post-frost crop. Up here on this side we have our beans. There are some cucumbers, pickling cucumbers mixed in here. And we do have lots of bees. A bunch of different types of beans this year, again from a seed swap. It's kind of fun. I'm probably not going to remember all the names, but we've got these guys. We've got these really monster long ones. I think they're like Asian long noodle or something. Try to get some in the sun so you can see some. Oh, here you go. So you can see how big this really is. It's about 8 or 9 inches long. We just picked heavily. We picked about 2 pounds yet last night, so we do need to start freezing these. We've got our regular green beans as well in here. The Blue Lake, I think. But definitely kind of fun and come in here and be able to just grab the beans right down. I do have to tie these up, or well, weave them up quite often. And I will start actually pruning the beans that are starting to come down into the aisle here. So I'll be watching that. I also have some watermelon in here. I've never had luck growing my own watermelon, so I'm really hopeful that this is the year. I will have to support the fruit on here. Here's a watermelon flower. That's a male. So as it continues to grow, there's I think 2 different types of watermelon that I did. Some from seed and some I bought, just to try to up my chances. I do have the first little fruit right down here, though. And this guy is probably going to come into the aisle, which won't make Jay very happy. It won't be as clean, coming up pretty quick. One thing I wanted to mention was when you do doubles of the beds, and I have to be very careful. I have 4 baby bunnies right in this bed, in the cayenne pepper bed. When you're doing the doubles, you can reuse or use the extra corner pieces that you get and make extra tall beds. So this was installed last year, and we actually replaced it with the 6-in-1. But this is the 4 corners from these 8-in-1s, and you can see how much we kind of have the mulch up and dug in by the height difference here. So we're trying to figure out where we want to install this one for next year. These 2 broccoli are from a friend from the plant swap. I've had to spray BT on it a couple times. I've had some pretty good cabbage worms on here, and they are so hard to find. The house wrens seem to like them and have been picking them off for me. And those are the ones that I have the birdhouse right here in the garden. And they all just fledged. So they all come and hang out on this cage and eat bugs all day. Totally fine with that. But these broccoli, especially this one right here, that one was eaten completely in the greenhouse. It was where it was originally planted, down to like a little stem. And then I moved it here. It's a little too protected probably. But having it in a part shade area where it's just starting to get sun, and we're like mid-late morning now, and it'll get the afternoon sun, seems to be working really well for it. So I'm excited to see how that goes. I have a bunch of status over here, and I've been picking it for both bouquets that I've been selling and for drying. And it's done really well. It's first time growing that, so that's been great. And I've got celery. I think this might be the celery root. The celery root was a good surprise last year. I picked some up, and it makes this big white root ball, and you can eat the celery on the tops too when you're making soups and stuff. But the celery root is very starchy like a potato, and is delicious. Absolutely loved it. Got some beets in here, some more celery, and again, this wall won't get any morning sun now at this point in the season, but in the early season when things were just taking off, it got the right amount of sun. So there's a fine line of how much sun and shade we can have, but this whole garden gets 14 hours of sun, so it's not too bad. I had stock in here for cut flowers, so this whole middle section here is going to be removed now that the stock is all going by, and I'm going to add a little bit of worm composting and fresh compost into this, and then I will plant carrots, I think, but maybe something else. Maybe spinach. I don't know. I'm going to plant one of my fall crops in here. I keep changing my mind. You can see more beans. Again, this is pretty easy to pick because it's only about a 2-foot depth and not even to get to the cage. Every once in a while I need Jace's help getting something that I can't reach, but very rarely on this one. And with these beans, as they try to come out, I kind of just keep tucking them back in. I do have carrots and lettuce kind of snuck in here, and some celery that I had to move because it kept on getting eaten. An osteospermum flower and petunia. So it's kind of a mix on this west side of the wall. And the beans though have really filled in. I overcrowded the beans. I wasn't sure which type we wanted, and I thought that'd be kind of fun to do. So this is the full garden tour on the tunnel bed. So this is equivalent to 4 of the 8-in-1s in total. And I hope this was helpful. I should say we do prefer to have the cattle panels inside the bed. We like a cleaner look. And there's plenty of growing space. These beans will make it a way around down in here. I'll circle them back. We didn't have any trouble last year with the amount of growing space we needed for the tunnel. I know that's been some people's concern by having them on the outside. The other thing is that Jace used zip ties when he was putting these together to line these up, and that made this arch look really, really good. And he kept them on over the first winter, and you can see it's a really clean line for a tunnel. So again, 4 cattle panels. We did 5 T-posts per each side. There is overlap on the cattle panels. Those are 16-foot long, I believe, cattle panels. We put them inside the beds when we were actually filling the beds to make it much easier. And we added extra supports along the tall beds to make them straighter and keep their shape. So I still have probably 3 episodes left, I think, to post, so please be on the lookout this weekend. We'll do a potato bed, a hot pepper one, and sweet peppers, I think. Oh, and I have a brassica bed as well. So keep watching for those episodes, and thank you guys. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you want to continue to watch our garden journey. Thanks for watching. Happy gardening.